Hi, I'm Don Mitchell. Welcome back to 2000% Living, the book that helps you become at least 20 times more productive for God, fulfilling His purposes for your life, and for expanding and improving His kingdom. In this lesson, we'll be looking at ways to learn from others by reading. And this is chapter 5 in the book, lesson 5, rather. And we will be focusing on expanding your ability to read, comprehend, and remember by at least 20 times. So let me begin by quoting from the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 3, in the New King James Version. Blessed is he who reads, and those who hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things that are written in it, for the time is near. There's an old saying it's better to learn from the mistakes of others than to make all those mistakes yourself. Most people would agree with that point, yet they still spend most of their days repeating the well-known mistakes others have committed. Why? In many cases, these people don't happen to know about those particular mistakes. You can only learn so much by watching others. Frequently, you'll find yourself in a situation you've never seen anyone else face. At that point, it's easy to make big mistakes. Stop long enough to find out what others have done before acting. Gaining and applying much more helpful information in a timely way requires fast, accurate, and effective reading. Let's look more closely at the opportunity to learn more by reading about others' experiences. An average adult can read about 200 to 400 words in a minute. Give those people tests on what they have just read, and they will accurately answer 70 to 80% of the questions. Yet ask them about what they've read a year later, and they will recall almost nothing. In addition, these people will have read only 1 to 5 books during the prior year, and those books will have been novels selected for pleasure rather than nonfiction books that were chosen for their useful content. Is it possible that people could learn a lot more from reading? Absolutely. Let's look at how much can be done by improving reading, understanding, and memory. We'll begin by looking at reading faster. Here I quote from Isaiah chapter 5, verse 19. Let him make speed and hasten his work, that we may see it. Most people will tell you that they would like to read faster, but feel that if they go faster, they won't be able to understand and remember very much. To them, it seems pointless to try to read faster. Yet there are many people who read several thousand words in a minute, remember virtually everything that they read. Why don't other people read faster and remember more? It's simple. They don't know how. It's another example of making a mistake because of not knowing how to avoid the mistake. Let me speak candidly about reading as someone who has read more than 5,000 books, written reviews of more than 4,000 of those books, and studied countless articles. Research shows that the process of learning to read isn't very simple for the brain. Many linkages need to be made. In fact, the process is complicated enough that somewhere between 30 and 40% of all people's brains learn to read in a way that makes printed information extra hard to understand. For instance, letters, words, and numbers may appear in a different order in their minds than they do on the page. What's worse, in a typical school, there are no reading specialists trained to identify how a brain is mixing up information, then to help the child read so that the problems are reduced or eliminated. You may be one of those people who hasn't yet received such help. I feel for you. I do have good news. There's at least one person who could probably help. My college classmate and friend, John Adams. If you can borrow, rent, buy, or already own a Mac computer, he can diagnose what you need to do to overcome any reading quirks and help you learn better methods. In a short period of time, you'll probably be reading much faster than ever before with good understanding. Why is John so good? Because he had reading problems as a youngster and has been helping people overcome such difficulties for many years. John knows what works and what doesn't for helping you. To find out more and to get in touch with him, tell him I sent you, and I'm sure John will be extra nice in helping you. Go to www.proportionalreading.com, reading.com, proportionalreading.com. I have more good news for you. Even if you don't have any special problems reading, but are just slower than you would like, John can also help you. You should be able to read at least 1,000 words a minute with very good comprehension through using his methods. For most people, that will be a speed at least 3 times higher than what they currently accomplish. If you can read and remember at least 3 times as much, you can certainly avoid a lot more mistakes than you do now by reading about what others have done. But what if you want to do even better? I read faster than that, and the method I recommend for speeding up above reading 1,000 words a minute requires making a series of small changes in your reading habits. Once you can read with near perfect comprehension any speed, let me outline the individual steps for going to higher speeds while retaining similarly good understanding. First, stop vocalizing what you read in your mind. Most average readers are simply reading aloud mentally to themselves, a very slow method of reading. Second, go much faster from reading one word to the next. Third, expand from reading one word at a glance to reading 2 words at a time. Once you become comfortable with this method, you will probably have doubled your speed. Increase to reading 3 words at a time. This change will triple your speed from where you started. Keep adding 1 word to the number you can read in a glance until you can see and absorb a whole line of print at one time. This adjustment will increase your speed by 10 to 12 times from reading 1 word at a time. Then, if you still want to go further, learn to read 2 lines at a time, and so on. At some point, you'll be able to read a whole paragraph at a time. Next, learn to read 1 paragraph plus 1 line at a time, and so on, adding lines until you can read 2 paragraphs at a time. Read 2 paragraphs at a time plus 1 line then, and so on, adding until you can read 3 paragraphs at a time. Continue until you can read a whole page at a time. Repeat the process, adding lines and paragraphs, until you can read 2 side-by-side pages at one glance. Don't feel like you have to go through all these steps to be a fast reader. Just proceed from one to the other until you gain the speed that meets your reading needs, the amount of time you want to spend reading for information. Second, let's work on understanding more. Here I'm going to quote from Matthew chapter 13, verses 13 and 16. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, nor do they understand. But blessed are your eyes, for they see. As you learn to read faster, it's very important to continually test your comprehension. In other words, you're just racing your eyes faster while leaving your mind ignorant of what you need to know. Let me share some lessons that have worked for me in creating more understanding. I learned long ago that my mind works a lot faster than my reading. As a result, there's room in my mental processes to be thinking about questions as I read. Consequently, I choose to read not only to understand what the writer intends to share with me, but also to gain an appreciation for any lessons that apply to avoiding mistakes in areas where I am inexperienced. Here are some questions I often use for nonfiction reading that are designed to help me overcome my inexperience. Is the experience I'm reading about similar to what I am facing? How does the experience differ from my situation? What advantages does the person have that I don't have? What disadvantages does the person have that I don't have? What information does the person have before taking action? What information would help the person to make a better decision? What other experiences are referenced that I should research? What other circumstances might be a lot like this one and the one I face? Is there some better alternative that didn't occur to the person I'm reading about? What would I have advised the person to do differently with the benefit of hindsight? To these questions, I often add other questions that are important concerning the credibility of just a particular book or article. For a source that seems a little off in its accuracy, I might ask, how did the author gain the information? How credible is this information? What is the author ignoring? What is the author probably misstating? What is the author's bias? You might think that having these questions in mind will slow down my reading a lot. Actually, adding the question seems to have the opposite effect. My speed and understanding increase as I eagerly look for answers that will help me with something that's important to achieving my goals. Before reading any material, I search through the book or article using these questions to determine which parts, if any, apply to what I want to learn. As a result, I often don't have to read the whole source. By concentrating just on sections that are information-rich for my questions, my attention level is higher and I understand more. The questions bring another benefit. When I've found what I need, I can stop reading unless the book or article seems to offer important insights into other areas relevant to my goals. Not reading what I don't need is another great way to stay focused and keep understanding high. Another way that I maintain a higher reading speed is by having nearby little strips of paper as I read. I insert one of these strips into the book or magazine so I can easily find the page again if I need it to reread something I found to be of interest. I have a system of colors and sizes of strips that tell me what I will find when I return to the page. A green strip means a constructive lesson. A red strip means a negative lesson. A blue strip means a piece of helpful background. A plum strip means an interesting point that's unrelated to the reason I picked up the source. This way, I may only have to glance at a few pages to deepen my understanding by cross-checking what's written on one page with what's written on another page. If I find a page that contains all the information I need, I just put a whole sheet of paper there. I find the simple act of putting the paper strips and sheets seems to increase how well I remember to the relevant sections. As a result, I probably only need to refer to 1 in 30 of the pages I've marked with strips of paper. Type of material also affects how rapidly I can read and understand. Mathematical formulas require me to stop and study them. Legal treatises are often written in such convoluted ways that it takes extra time to decipher what the author is trying to say. Philosophical texts are often filled with problems and questions that are designed to make readers stop and think. Present me with information that feels new to me, filled with lots of unfamiliar vocabulary, and I will probably read more slowly than you would if you were already familiar with the subject. As you should, I let my understanding of the material determine how quickly I go through it. Now let's turn to remembering more. Here I want to quote from Genesis chapter 9, verse 16 in the NAS version. When the bow is in the cloud, then I will look upon it, to remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. Unless you're blessed with a photographic memory, something I once had but no longer have, you'll have to do more than just read and remember information. You may need to refer to something you read many years ago. How can you do that? Let me tell you about the method I've been using for more than 10 years. I write book reviews of almost any nonfiction book I read that I publish on Amazon.com. While my main purpose is to help other people find the books that will be useful to them, I also benefit by having a record of what I've read and what's important about it to me. My reviews usually summarize the key points of the book and what's significant about them. My memory is usually good enough to allow me to remember the right source book for answering a question. As a result, I can quickly do an online search using my name and the book's title to find my online review. I can then read the review in a few seconds and will usually obtain the answer I'm looking for. If not, I can determine if I need to look at the book again by going to the library, borrowing it, reading a copy I've got in the office, or buying one. Let me assume your memory may not always be quite as good as mine is now. You can also sprinkle technical terms throughout your review and then do online searches that employ your name and those technical terms. You'll find all the relevant reviews you wrote. If you find that it helps to have more detailed descriptions of the lessons in the book, you can include those in your review by accessing the pages next to the colored strips of paper. And that way you can have the equivalent of course notes concerning the source. I usually spend less than a half hour writing a review or making notes on a source. Often the amount of time is less than 10 minutes. For a 1,000-word book, a typical length of a more thorough nonfiction source, that amounts to the equivalent of slowing my reading by no more than 38%. I consider that writing time to be well spent because it increases my ability to remember key lessons after many years by well over 20 times. If I make 10 fewer mistakes in a year that would cost me many hours of problems, mistakes of this time, the benefit of this time is probably an even higher multiple of the time spent in writing. I also find that writing reviews increases my understanding by causing me to think about what I will want to say about the book while I read it. It's another way to become a closer, more careful reader. I highly recommend this method. Follow these suggestions, you'll see vast new opportunities open up as you access the information that God wants you to know and remember. You will also be willing to take on much more difficult tasks, knowing how easily you can draw on valuable information that others have written. So I hope this lesson has been a blessing to you, and I look forward to having you return to hear about our next lesson, and which I'll be recording soon. So in the meantime, be well. May God bless you, your family, and all you do. In the name of Jesus.